Right, before we get into this, I just want to say, I do think Palace are one of those teams that you don't want to play right now. There is that pacey element. I don't want to underestimate them there. There is that nasty, hard to beat element that I really don't want to underestimate them there. And there is also just that Eze element as well. There's also the fact that Liverpool, going into the international break, will know that post-international break, there is something there to hit hard. They're going to want to get a result out of this game. I think this is probably the most motivated we're going to see this Liverpool team. I think they are a bit, overall Slot was disappointed with that Bologna result. And I think Liverpool are going to have a bit of a rocket up them over this past week. So I don't want to underestimate this Palace side. As confident as we should always be going into a lot of these big games, every game in the Premier League is a big game, but going into a lot of these big games in the coming weeks, I think we should also be thinking about the consistency. And, you know, as much as it's 12:30, don't use that as an excuse. As much as it's away at Palace, don't use that as an excuse. There's a lot of different things that I think a lot of people have been using as kind of, oh, this is why we're not good so far. I talk about the strength of Liverpool in this video. I talk about the strength of Palace. There's banana skins in the Premier League, and they're good banana skins. Let's just talk for a second about mentality. I think at press conferences, you can often overread into just one comment, but Arne Slot spoke about being top of the table with Liverpool, and well, he was asked about it, obviously. He didn't just go, by the way, we're top of the table, get used to it. It wasn't the way it worked. He was asked the question, basically, you know, are you wary of being top of the table and being one of those big heads? I think he made a really good point. You know, we've spoken, especially in my last video, about Liverpool being used to this status at this point. But I think one thing that we don't really talk about is how you continue that and how Arne Slot has to continue Liverpool's momentum right now. And he spoke about Liverpool players should be used to being there, or at least they should get used to being there, and they should, you know, be au fait with these ideas that come with it and the stress and the pressure that come with those things as well. And I think it is really important to talk about this kind of stuff. Liverpool, whilst they might not be, you know, the favourites for a title this season, certainly are one of the teams that a lot of people are going to be looking to take down. New manager, new system. They know there's going to be you know, Arne Slot spoke about this in his Sky Sports interview. You know, you need to have a while until the players are going to be 100% used to playing the way that you want them to play. They're going to be really familiar with the system. They're going to know the switch-ups, all those kind of things. And I think he's spoken about the intelligence of the players, the way the players are, and how they've, you know, taken on his system very quickly, how, you know, you get a lot of reps early on in the season, mainly because, you know, you basically play a game, watch a load of tape, play a game, watch a load of tape. Now he's talking about the fact there won't be as much of that time. And so I think it's worth just talking about going into this international break, the differences and the final opportunity really to play in this specific way before we get into the next zone of the season, where it begins to shape up, where you can see the runners and the riders at the top, the people who are going to begin to fall away, who's had the harder games, who's actually getting a real test, and also who's learned their tactical system. You know, Chelsea with Maresca, United with Ten Hag, what's going on there? And the differences and the familiarity, basically, the players have with those systems. Let's see, it'd be interesting to see. But I thought it was an interesting comment, and I just wanted to pick up on that because Slot seems to deal really well with a lot of these kind of banana skin trip-up questions, and I'm really enjoying it. But I also like the fact that he's like, no, we're at Liverpool here. Like, you know, we should be familiar with these situations. It's just worth noting as a fan base, I think. People are talking about where Liverpool sit in terms of difficulty of the season. Has Arne Slot actually had a quite easy start to the season? And have we just beaten the teams that we're supposed to beat, not even Nottingham Forest? Or is 8 and 9 wins actually pretty good? And Liverpool started well. This being the final of the games before the international break, I wanted to check out how Crystal Palace have been doing, whether realistically we should be weighting teams just by how many games they've won, where they sit in the table at this point in the season, and also whether Liverpool might be susceptible to some counters, and also some of the similar tactics, the ones that Bologna used against Crystal Palace. This is the talent that Crystal Palace have got. They've got Eze. I love Eberici Eze. Nketiah, you know I'm a big Nketiah fan. Philippe Mateta, could he be the first real quality striker, apart from the sub that Bologna used earlier in the week, that we face this season? Mark Gray, obviously a really great talent, be looking to do something against Salah. Will they get the overload over there? And then obviously Trevor Chalobah on the opposite side with Lacroix sat in the middle, and then obviously Dean Henderson back there. Good for him. This has been their form earlier this season. It's not been great, to be quite honest, and they, in terms of difficulty of games, I think I've had quite a hard run of it. Chelsea in there, Leicester in there, United in there, Everton, bad time to face them, Brentford, West Ham, like, excuse me, I'm still suffering from this cough. It's not been pleasant for them, and that is why they find themselves all the way, I'll put a line on it, down here in the table. Not pleasant at all, 18th. I think they've been a little bit unlucky, if I'm honest. I think Palace have come away from some of these games where you think, actually, should you have got more from that? Possibly. I mean, against Brentford, narrow loss. West Ham, I would have been disappointed if I was Palace in that one, although West Ham, I think, have gone on to prove themselves. Chelsea, decent score. Again, Leicester, decent score. As a critical in a couple of these games, they've had some moments where it's that individual brilliance they've managed to bring out. Will that be what they're trying to do against Liverpool? Third round win against QPR, and obviously the Manchester United and Everton games, both more positive for them. So I feel like they're on more of an upward trajectory, should we say? But I feel like Everton, obviously losing to Everton is not great, but I still feel like they're on an upward trajectory. I want to talk about this upward trajectory that we find ourselves in, and overall where Liverpool sit in terms of difficulty so far this season. Someone in my server, my Discord server, there is a link just down there, put together the difficulty table of where they think Liverpool have played in terms of difficulty so far this season. They ranked all the teams over here in terms of how difficult they think they are to play. And then they also ranked the opposite way. So kind of, where Liverpool would be if they were to, So anyway, the smaller the number here, I'm just going to highlight that, the harder your schedule is. The surprise this threw out, Tottenham, Manchester United, Newcastle and Villa have all had what you would consider to be a harder run than Man City, Arsenal and Chelsea. Now that may also be because if you do the calculations the other way, obviously they're ranked higher in the table, so there's a bit of like basic maths that's going on here that means that it's maybe not the most scientific way of putting it, but put it this way. These guys, Arsenal, seem to have had a slightly harder, I would say Arsenal have had a very difficult run so far this season. They've played the team that are first, fifth, but then outside of that, first, fifth and fourth, but then outside of that, 14th, 11th, 18th. Is that really all that hard? Liverpool, on the other side of that, have pretty much all played bottom half of the table teams. My point would be, are we really seeing this Liverpool side challenged all that much? And is it really a match like this against a Palace team with Eze able to exploit that exact space that Bologna were looking to exploit? Nketiah able to get in between the two that sit in midfield and the two that sit in defence. Mateta, is he going to be sitting on someone like Konate throughout this game? Is Van Dijk going to be put on him? Is he going to be looking to drift between the two? Is Eze going to look to pin someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold back? All these things, really unpleasant thoughts for me as a Liverpool fan, because I know that there are some difficulties. And obviously, I think with its super talented centre midfield, we're going to see whether McAllister and Gravenberch can really, how can I put it, expand in the same way as they did against, first of all, Bologna, but I also think in the Champions League against AC Milan as well. I think that's going to be a fairly challenging matchup for Liverpool. This was the team that they fielded against Bologna. Luis Diaz out there, Mo Salah out there, and obviously in the midfield three of Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and McAllister, we see a fairly solid midfield starter set there, and obviously in the back line as well. Since Quansah went out on the opening day of the season, we've not really seen that starting back line change. This is the one that SofaScore think will start. The only real change there is Cody Gakpo, and obviously Darwin Núñez out for Diogo Jota, but the Gakpo change is the real change because I think a lot of people would expect Jota to start. Jota didn't start the previous game, did come on, did change things. You wonder if against a line of three like this, which definitely is going to try and pose Liverpool problems. They're going to sit a little bit deeper, make it harder for Liverpool to break them down, go through them. Whether you would want to play a Jota, someone like that. I was thinking it would be the other way around initially, but the more I think about it, I would actually start Jota in this game, finish going into the international break strong, still play the same midfield three, still play the same back four, maybe change to like a Gakpo, someone like that, because you might want somebody who can cut in. Though I would be interested to see if against a deeper team, they do play someone like a Luis Diaz who can nip in at the back post, get that header in. I think that at the moment they're looking for that Salah and Diaz combination where it's like, oh, get the cross across and Diaz is arriving at the back post. Maybe Gakpo comes on later in the game. I think it's interesting because it's difficult to work out, but I think we'll try and finish strong going into the international break and begin to experiment tactically on the other side of that. When I say experiment, I don't really mean experiment. I mean we'll have to rotate, basically. I think weirdly, I always see them line up like this. I'm not quite sure why they line up in a straight line. We know Szoboszlai is going to be a little further forward, helping the press around here. We know that Gravenberch is going to be more on this side. We know McAllister is going to be more here in this kind of box area there. And then obviously against Bologna, he was given the license to roam forward a little bit. Wonder if he'll be given that much license in this game, because Robertson might need a little more protection and Trent might need a little more protection on that side. It's partially why I think we're looking at players like Zubimendi. It's partially why I think we've not played Curtis Jones or Endo or even Trainioni or Tyler Morton in a lot of these games, because they need that protection back there, and those guys don't have that level of experience, A, to protect and move, but B, also then to progress the ball forward. It'll be interesting to see how someone like Wharton, Lerma allow the space for Gravenberch, because especially against Bologna, he was just allowed to drop the shoulder, go straight through the midfield. He was allowed to put balls around players and then run around them just because he was so much bigger. I don't think he's going to have that same advantage in this. And I'd be interested to see if this is actually a back five or that back three, and then the two progressed here that are going to try and pin Liverpool's fullbacks back and make it so that when you pin the fullbacks back, what you really also get is the space in this area, because what you've done is lock them into these two areas and stop Liverpool from being able to push forward a little bit, and also stop the progressive ball into there. You've got two guys who love to carry the ball into this area, the 17-18 area, and play off Mateta there. When he's barging Liverpool's back line back, they're going to be looking to get into this area. There's a lot of lines there. Basically what I'm saying is these guys are going to be looking to occupy Liverpool's fullbacks, while these guys are looking to occupy Liverpool's two midfielders, and if anything, get in, I'm going to have to undo that because I don't want those to appear there. Get in this area, which, I mean, realistically in the actual tactics board doesn't look like that. It's actually more like this area just in front of the penalty area. It's where a lot of Liverpool chances have been conceded so far this season. It's where the frustrating areas are. It's where really Gravenberch and McAllister don't want to be. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. The interesting aspect with this is, right, Liverpool's ball progression, these guys are all very intense, right? But Liverpool's ball progression will be interesting to see, because they've got a lot of space in this midfield area there. Because what will be interesting is who's going to stick there. There is a shout, and it's just a shout, to play someone like Curtis Jones in this game. Szoboszlai obviously a great ball progressor, and we want to be able to press that back line. But with that extra man in the back line, are we going to look to actually press in the way that we want to press? Or are we going to look to win it back and then progress it to someone like a 10 in that area? I'm just saying, we're going to have to change things up a little bit because of the shape of the opposition here. Or will the opposition change their shape around us? I'll be interested to see that. There is a shout for Curtis Jones in this area, not necessarily for pressing, but for ball progression, because they'll be allowed a load of space here. You'll see Gravenberch, you'll see McAllister pick it up fairly regularly there, because these guys are going to be unable to do the job that they need to do in order to stop that midfield progression. Of course, they could make a little box there, and that could make it quite awkward for Liverpool. There could be a bit of an overload there. But again, a good reason to see Curtis Jones in this area. Or, similar to Manchester United, will we see Szoboszlai? This one doesn't really do it justice. This one, I'm going to need to use this one. Liverpool will not be in this kit, but you get my point. Szoboszlai will be dropping back. You saw him do it against United, making little overloads on either side. Will he be dropping back into these areas? And then when you see Jota come a little bit deeper, Diaz go further down the field, Mohamed Salah go further down the field and become more like strikers. It is an argument as to not only play Diaz, but also to play Cody Gakpo as well. Both of them have different end product. Will there be space for them to drive into here? Unsure. So it's probably better for Diaz, but it'll be interesting to see what they do in those areas, right? Still worried about Eze. Still worried about Nketiah. Both those guys are looking to get into that gap between the Liverpool midfield and the Liverpool defence and exploit it. Potentially, I know it's a weird one, but they're playing the right formation to frustrate Liverpool at home. You know, we love you, Palace. It's not the nicest place to visit. I don't want Liverpool to underestimate them in the way that Liverpool have previously underestimated Forest, Bologna. Need I go back? There's other teams. Wolves, I felt they underestimated. Don't go around underestimating all these teams. It's just good advice. Anyway, there is going to be, over the international break, a lot of content going up on the Patreon. We're going to be talking about Slot. We're going to be talking about previous managers. We're going to be talking about... I've got some books around here somewhere I wanted to talk about as well. I'd love to get you guys involved over there. We're going to be having last international break, we went into it on the back of a 3-0 win against United. My prediction in this game would be it's going to be close, but Liverpool will still get a win. I think they score. I think it goes 2-1. I think it gets to 1-1, and there's like a bit of a squeaky bum time, and then, we get away with it. But apart from the Forest game, Liverpool have scored at least 2 goals in every game they've played so far this season. I think that will continue. I hope it should continue. But again, the frustration comes because it's 12:30 kickoff. We must have a fan, there must be a base of fans somewhere in the world who love Liverpool, and it just happens that 12:30 lines up perfectly with whatever time in the world it is. Is it Australia? Is it Japan? Where is it? Is what I want to know. I'm going to need to look up time zones. This table I found hard to read, but it made sense, right? Liverpool have had, I think, not as hard a start to the season as United, Villa, Spurs, even Chelsea. And I think we're about to face the biggest challenge after the international break. And going into the international break, we're about to face a bit of a banana skin team. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll be down there. I'll be talking about the Trent situation in a video later in the weekend. I'll be talking about other transfers. Apparently one Adeyemi. I'll be interested to see your opinions on that. Let me know in the comments below. And of course, get into the Discord, get into the Patreon. I'll see you guys down there. Much love. Bye.